Abandoned baby gorilla reached out to a stray dog. What happened next is unbelievable. The air in the twilight of the Congolese basin was thick, a heavy, humid promise of rain that clung to the skin like a wet wool blanket. It smelled of ancient decay, of crushed orchids, and the sharp, acidic scent of fear that only those who live in the shadows of the canopy truly understand. Deep within a makeshift sanctuary on the edge of the rainforest, a sound broke the stillness, not the triumphant roar of a silverback or the rhythmic chirping of cicadas, but a small, wet whimper. There, huddled in the corner of a darkened enclosure, was Kumi, an infant gorilla barely 6 months old. His fur was the color of midnight charcoal, sparse and matted with the dust of a journey he should never have had to take. But it wasn't his solitude that stopped the breath of the approaching keepers. It was what Kumi was doing with his hands. His tiny, leathery fingers, trembling with a cold that shouldn't exist in the tropics, were reaching through the rusted iron bars toward a creature that by all laws of nature should have been his predator, or at least a terrifying stranger. A stray dog, a scrawny yellow cur with ribs like a radiator and fur the texture of sun-scorched hay, stood just inches away. The dog, whom the locals called Beau, didn't growl. He didn't bark. Instead, he lowered his head, his tail giving a single hesitant thump against the packed dirt floor that smelled of iron and old wood. The baby gorilla reached out, not in defense but with a desperate grasping palm, and as his fingers brushed the coarse, golden hair of the dog's snout, the world seemed to tilt. It was a behavior that defied every survival instinct etched into their DNA. A primate seeking solace in a canine, a wild orphan finding a heartbeat to match his own in a stray from the streets. The silence that followed was visceral, a moment where the very atmosphere seemed to vibrate with the impossibility of what the camera was about to capture. Before we go any deeper into this unbelievable journey of two souls lost in the world, I want to invite you to join our community. If stories like Kumi and Beau's, stories that prove love has no species and empathy has no bounds, touch your heart, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. It helps us continue to bring these long-form, emotional stories to life. And while you're there, we would love to know where in the world you are joining us from today. Drop a comment below with your location and the local time where you are. It's a beautiful reminder that no matter how far apart we are all connected by the same capacity for wonder. To understand how Kumi and Beau ended up in that darkened corner, we have to look back at the world that shaped them. The sanctuary was a place of fading light and peeling green paint, nestled in a valley where the mountains bled into the jungle. Kumi had been found weeks earlier, a tiny bundle of grief clinging to a lifeless mother on the edge of a clearing that smelled of wood smoke and spent gunpowder. He was a bushmeat orphan, a term that tastes like ash in the mouths of the rangers who find them. When he first arrived at the sanctuary, the air around him was cold despite the heat. He carried a psychic chill that no amount of blankets could warm. Across the courtyard lived Beau. Beau wasn't an orphan of the forest, but an orphan of the city. He had been a shadow dog, one of the thousands who survived on the periphery of human settlements, smelling of discarded charcoal and sour grain. He was scarred, with a notched ear and a permanent limp from a run-in with a motorbike. But his eyes, a deep, liquid brown the color of over-steeped tea, held a softness that the harshness of the streets had failed to erase. The two had lived in parallel universes, separated by species, by bars, and by the weight of their own traumas. The staff at the sanctuary, overworked and exhausted, barely noticed the dog who would occasionally slip through the gaps in the perimeter fence to sleep in the shade of the gorilla enclosures. They were focused on the clinical, the calorie counts, the hydration levels, the fight against the parasites that plagued Kumi's fragile system. They didn't see the silent conversations happening in the shadows. The way Beau would sit motionless for hours, his golden fur catching the dappled afternoon light, watching the tiny gorilla who refused to eat. As the weeks pressed on, the situation reached a breaking point. The crisis didn't arrive with a scream. It arrived with a terrifying, hollow quiet. Kumi began to sink into what the primatologists call depressive wasting. He stopped responding to the rubber nipples filled with fortified milk. He ignored the brightly colored enrichment toys that smelled of sterile plastic. His skin, once supple, began to hang loosely on his frame, feeling like dry parchment. The keepers, led by a woman named Sarah, whose eyes were perpetually rimmed with the red fatigue of sleepless nights, became desperate. They tried everything. They wore gorilla-colored vests to mimic his mother, they played recordings of forest sounds, they even brought in a surrogate mother from a neighboring troop. But Kumi only retreated further into himself, his small face a mask of ancient, unearned sorrow. The clinical signs were worsening, his heart rate was a sluggish, uneven thrum, and his body temperature began to drop. "He's giving up," Sarah whispered one evening, the scent of antiseptic and her own salt-heavy tears filling the small infirmary. "He has the medicine, he has the food, but he doesn't have the will." It was a failure of the spirit, a malady that no stethoscope could fully map. They prepared for the worst, the heavy, metallic taste of impending loss hanging in the air like a storm that refused to break. Then came the night of the reveal, the moment the truth was uncovered in a flash of high-stakes intuition. It was nearly midnight, and a low mist was creeping through the floorboards of the sanctuary, smelling of wet earth and night-blooming jasmine. Sarah had left the infirmary door ajar to let in a draft of air. She returned to find the room transformed. Beau, the stray dog, had managed to push his way past the light latch. He wasn't standing over Kumi like a threat. He was lying on his side, his belly exposed in the ultimate sign of canine trust. And Kumi? The baby gorilla who hadn't moved of his own volition in days was buried deep in the dog's golden fur. The truth hit Sarah with the force of a physical blow. Kumi didn't need a gorilla mother. He didn't need a biological match. He needed a specific kind of heartbeat. He needed the steady, rhythmic warmth of a creature that had also known the bottom of the world and survived. The why was hidden in the sensory overlap. The dog's fur, coarse yet warm, mimicked the tactile stimulation Kumi's nervous system required to regulate itself. More importantly, the dog's lack of expectation, his silent, non-judgmental presence, provided a bridge that human keepers, with their frantic energy and smell of clinical anxiety, could never build. It was a technical phenomenon known as interspecies co-regulation, where the calmer nervous system of the dog began to literally pull the gorilla's erratic heart rate into a healthy rhythm. The resolution was a slow, agonizingly beautiful dance of recovery. It began with the first moment of physical reconnection that the keepers caught on the security camera. Kumi, his eyes finally clear of the foggy lethargy, reached up and gripped Beau's ear. Instead of pulling away, Beau let out a long, shuddering sigh, his body softening further into the straw. The tension in the room seemed to dissolve, replaced by a release so thick you could almost taste it. Over the next few days, they witnessed the synchronized breathing. They would lie together in the patch of morning sun that hit the floor, their chests rising and falling in perfect unison. It was as if they were sharing a single lung, a single life force. Kumi began to take the bottle again, but only if Beau was within touching distance, the dog's tail occasionally thumping against the floor like a metronome of hope. The healing wasn't just physical, it was a psychological reconstruction. The textures of their lives began to merge, the smell of the fortified milk mingling with the earthy, musky scent of the dog. Kumi's fur began to regain its luster, turning from a dull ash to a deep, healthy obsidian that caught the light like polished coal. The philosophical legacy of Kumi and Beau is a profound challenge to our understanding of the world. It teaches us that empathy is not a cognitive luxury of the highly evolved, but a primal, biological necessity. It suggests that there is a sixth sense of love, a frequency that bypasses the limitations of language, species, and instinct. We often think of intelligence as the ability to solve problems or use tools, but what Kumi and Beau demonstrated was a higher intelligence, the ability to recognize a kindred soul through the veil of trauma. Their bond reminds us that the language of the heart is the true mother tongue of all living things. In a world that often feels fractured and divided, the sight of a baby gorilla and a stray dog sleeping in a tangle of limbs is a testament to the idea that sanctuary isn't a place you find, it's someone you find. It proves that the unspoken is often more powerful than anything we can say, and that sometimes the only way to heal a broken heart is to lean it against another one that has been mended. As the sun begins to set over the Congo, painting the sky in bruised purples and burning golds, we see Kumi and Beau one last time. They are no longer the broken creatures they once were. They are a family of two, a testament to the unbelievable strength found in the most unlikely places. Kumi is stronger now, his grip firm, his eyes bright with the mischievous spark that belongs to every healthy infant. And Beau, though still limping, walks with a head held high, his role as a guardian giving his life a dignity the streets never could. Their story is a reminder to all of us that no matter how deep the darkness, no matter how cold the night, there is always a hand reaching out in the shadows, and sometimes it belongs to the person you least expect. Thank you for walking this path with us today, and for witnessing the incredible journey of Kumi and Beau. If their story moved you, please consider sharing this video with someone who might need a reminder of the power of connection. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help us keep these stories alive. Before you go, we want to hear from you. Have you ever seen an animal show a sixth sense or an intuition that left you speechless? A dog who knew exactly when you were hurting, or an unlikely friendship that defied the odds? Let us know in the comments below. We read every one, and your stories of empathy are what keep this community growing. Until next time, remember to listen to the language of the heart and look for the beauty in the unspoken.